This illustration deals with dwelling unit basements in accordance with NEC 210.8A as in Apple and 5. The purpose of the change, a revision has been made to clarify the addition of 250 volt receptacles and removing amperage limitations and provide GFCI protection to most receptacles commonly used in certain areas. These areas have been shown to require GFCI protection for receptacles at 250 volt receptacles. They can present similar hazards as 120 volt receptacles according to this section that's been revised. Now, first I'd like to point out that this is a dwelling unit, so therefore 210.8A1 through 11 applies where GFCI protection is required around and in dwelling units. It's right to the left with the call-out dwelling unit. Now, secondly, I'd like to talk about finished or unfinished basements. That's the call-out right below dwelling unit. And notice the requirements can be found in 210.8A5. So make sure we understand this is finished or unfinished basements. Thirdly, these receptacles, when we look at the arrows pointed to those basement receptacles, GFCI protection for single phase receptacles rated at 120 volts to ground through 250 volts to ground shall be provided with GFCI protection at 150 volts or less to ground as required by 210.8A and A5. The fourth thing I'd like to talk about is this receptacle you see at the right, at the very top of the illustration. And it calls for GFCI single-phase protected receptacles in 210.8A period, which now will include 250 volt receptacles as well as the 120 volt receptacles. Number 5 I'd like to call out, it's right next to the receptacles that you're shown in the basement. And the call out is for indoor damp and wet locations. See the NEC 210.8A11 as well as Article 100 for the definition of damp and wet locations. Now, to finish this thing up, let's just take a look at the notes. And in a dwelling unit, and the note 1's right at the top, in a dwelling unit basement or basements, 125 volt through 250 single-phase receptacles now, even if equipped with GFCI protection, should have a GFCI protected circuit at 150 volts or less to ground. So at that voltage rating, we know we're going to have GFCI protection on those receptacles. Note 2 states and reads, for receptacles required and not required to be GFCI protection in garages, see NEC 211, or excuse me, NEC 210.11, C as in car, 4. Now, notice this is dwelling units. If we're dealing with commercial, industrial, or other areas other than dwelling units, we will see 210.8B, which is coming up in this presentation.